Well, guys, thanks for joining us. It is another beautiful Tuesday night, and you are watching us live on Facebook. Thanks so much for joining us. It is episode number
30.
Episode number 30.
30.
So thanks, guys. And if you are listening on the audio podcast, thanks very much for listening to us while you're driving or working out or whatever it is you do while you listen to your podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. Take just a minute to like and subscribe and all of that fun stuff. Garrett, it's been a little bit of an interesting weekend in sports.
It really has.
We can't talk about the Twins anymore.
No.
So we'll talk briefly about our NFL teams. The Vikings had a handy win against the Eagles.
They looked good.
And so I have a lot of friends who are Detroit Lions fans. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I know people feel a certain kind of way about the game last night, but it is what it is. So
it was
dude, it is what it is.
I mean, it's a W, right?
I don't know what to tell you. That it happened. So, let's move on. Now, I got to say, I found something really interesting today when I was looking at the news, and I have no idea why this popped up in my feed. Maybe it says something about me as a person. But there's a new flavor of Lay's potato chips coming out soon for fall. Do you know what it is? It's really weird.
Please say it's not pumpkin spice.
It's not pumpkin spice, thank God.
Okay.
Although they probably already had that.
I'm sure they did.
So grilled cheese and tomato soup for a flavor of potato chip. I don't understand what that's all about.
Me gusta.
But it is what it is. So
hey, if they can make that flavor combo and a chip, more power to
them.
them.
I'm just too scared to try it because I think it's not going to end well.
Well, have you had those like cheeseburger ones?
Yeah, my son loves those things. I just can't.
I can't either.
I just can't do it.
They make it too pickly a lot of times.
Yeah, I can't do it. It's too weird.
Yeah.
Too weird. Thanks again, guys, for watching. And please take a minute, leave some comments and questions. We're going to have a great time this evening. We're really excited to welcome our guests this evening from Tatuaje Cigars, Mr. Pete Johnson. Pete, how are you this evening?
Good, man. How you doing?
Fantastic.
Garrett, everything good?
Pete, brother, it is an honor to have you on.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been excited for a while, and we know you've got a busy schedule. You're traveling a little bit tomorrow. If you would, tell everybody a little bit about where you're traveling to and what that's all about.
Well, tomorrow I have a meeting with the CRA board. I was voted onto the CRA board recently, actually earlier this year, with another manufacturer representative, Corey Bappert from Oliva. And we're just getting together to have a quarterly meeting. So
yeah, well, that's good. We appreciate. I know you have a busy enough schedule as it is, but spending a little time with the CRA to help, hopefully get, just keep things at bay when it comes to over-regulation and things like that. We appreciate the extra time that you put into that.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we get something done tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's actually a 2-day meeting up in Tampa, so we should have a good time. I mean, it's always good to see everybody in the room, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And I'm excited every time this year rolls around. One of my favorite things is the fall offerings by Tatuaje. Obviously, the Monster series is a huge fun series to smoke. And tonight, Matt and I are going to rock the Halloween
pumpkins.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Got
Do you
these.
know what it is?
These are from last year when you were here in Tobacco Grove last year around August.
So they would have been pumpkin spice.
That's it. I'm not smoking it. Give me something else.
No, yeah, I think that's the Sumatra. If it was last year, it would have been the Sumatra, because this year I started doing San Andreas.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which we call the calabaza.
Yeah, it's I actually let them I put them away in the back of the humidor for a while, and then found them when we moved here. So we just moved, and I've been finding all kinds of cool stuff from my humidor when I had to pack it away and move it. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I had that.
Don't you hate moving? When did you move?
July.
So I moved in last December. That's why my life has been, and I'm still not completely moved. I still have everything in LA, but the company stayed in LA, and half of my stuff stayed in LA. I just kind of piecemeal stuff down here every few weeks or so.
Yeah, it's not any fun at all, especially with 3 kids and a dog and a cat. And I told my family, I said, this is it. I'm not moving ever again. When my time comes many years from now, bury me in the backyard, because I'm not leaving. That's it. So,
well, we got 3 kids and a dog.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
No cat.
Well, consider yourself lucky. Trust me.
Hey, Pete. Speaking of the fall offerings that you guys throw out, do you have a favorite monster?
That's a tough one. I mean, I always go back to Frank because it was the first one and the least painful. Honestly, I think if I have to choose a cigar that I really enjoy smoking, that's kind of like the surprise, is Tiff. I think it's just got flavor and body, and that wrapper kind of brings it down to a nice creamy note. But it's got a lot of flavor to it. People are kind of put off by it because of the color of the wrapper. But I think it's got one of the best flavors.
Well, that was, in the compilation boxes, the little monsters and the pudgy monsters.
Yeah.
I always would go to my friends and say, okay, if you guys don't like the Chuck and the Tiff, I'll buy them from you. I'll trade for them, whatever. Because some guys it wasn't in their wheelhouse. They didn't like it. So I'd say, okay, you give me those and I'll give you, some other stuff or whatever. And I was always, over the years looking at the different, monsters would come out, and I would think to myself, okay, eventually, hopefully, he's going to say, let's do a full release of Chuck and Tiff, for a full on monster release. And I was excited to hear that. And they're hitting stores pretty much right now. Is that right?
Yeah. Wow. I think a little bit last week and this week. Yeah. I think the second wave is actually going out now to where everybody starts getting it. But the first wave, I think, landed all by last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some pictures starting to post already of people sampling those in the early on. So
and it's funny, the majority of the pictures I see are 2 Chucks and 1 Tiff, and I'm like, okay, it's like they're I'll try one just to see if I like it.
Yeah,
but yeah, people are scared of it.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that it's right up their alley.
Yeah,
skinnies are my favorite. I'm a skinny monster guy.
That was a fun project, actually. A lot of we had done the sampler, and then I was changing the packaging on Black Label to a laydown box. And Dan Welsh, who does surrogates with us, he's like, you should take that stand-up box, since you're not the pencil box that you're not using anymore for the Black Labels, and do the whole rainbow of colors of the Skinny Monsters. And I was like, brilliant. I mean, that was that one moment that I realized that Lanceros sell.
Yeah, it's weird. We hear so many different stories from different cigar manufacturers, different cigar companies, that everybody's got a different take on Lanceros. But at least for the cigar nerds, for lack of a better term, that's what I call us, is, Lanceros are just a nice change of pace from 52s and 54s and that kind of thing.
Yeah, honestly, the max ring gauge. Yeah, the max ring gauge I like is a 52. I mean, I'll go higher, but I really enjoy 52 and lower. But I normally stick to that 42 to 46, 48 range a lot. Like this cigar that I'm smoking now is a 54, but it doesn't feel like a 54, so it's comfortable.
Yeah. So Pete, one of the things that I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last couple of years, and we've had some great conversations. And I know you've got a background in music, in the music business, and as kind of on the back end and playing on stage as well. And one of the things I've always been curious about is I've seen a lot of people in the cigar industry, from all walks of the cigar industry, really, who are creative types. And I've gotten to know so many people who have music backgrounds, who have art backgrounds, or design backgrounds and that kind of thing. People like Avo and Rafael Nodal and Nick Perdomo and even Pepin,
Yeah.
And so,
well, Pepin was a baseball player in Cuba.
Yeah. But he's also
that was his thing,
Yeah.
But he's obviously his skill is just something out of this world.
Yeah.
But when you talk about art and you talk about musicians, there's a lot of musicians in this industry. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
But a ton. I mean, you named a few of them, but there were a lot more. Ernesto Carrillo, Mike Herklotz.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of drummers actually, not a lot of bass players.
Yeah. Mike Herklotz, Nick Perdomo.
One of my sales reps in California.
Rocky was a drummer too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too many drummers actually.
Could we never be too many drummers?
Well, I mean, to give you a little, I mean, most people know a little bit about my background. I was a musician. I still play a little bit, but usually when no one's listening. But I grew up wanting to be a fashion designer. I was an artist. I used to, take art classes when I was younger. We had a lady next door to our house in Gardner, Maine that we would like take art classes from her. So art was always around us. My father was a pretty talented drawer. So we were always around art in general. But then my grandmother taught me how to sew, and I started sewing clothes. And then I thought it'd be kind of cool to like design my own clothing. Next thing you know, I started playing music and I started making clothing for stage. So it was constantly, I would have rather been, in a jam room with my guitar and a sewing machine than going to school. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think? Because there's so much creativity in music and design and art and fashion. But there's also, I think a lot of people lose sight, at least a lot of consumers kind of lose sight of and forget about the fact that there's so much creativity that goes into premium cigars, whether it's the growing, the blending, the packaging, all that stuff. What do you think draws creative types into this business?
I think it's really exactly what you just said. It's the ability to take, raw leaves and turn them into something special. I mean, you never know how something's going to work out when you put these pieces of leaf together. Sometimes they don't always work out great, but it's all about experiments. I think it's kind of like why, scientists geek out on what they do.
Yeah.
They literally sit there in the lab and they start playing to find some magic cure to something. We just like to be mad scientists also. It's the same thing with winemakers. It's like finding that perfect blend that makes your palate pop.
Yeah.
And then sitting down at a computer, nowadays, back in the old days, it was like everybody used hand drawing or stone litho or whatever. For me, I sit down at a computer and I'll design new bands or new artwork for a box. There's one person I know that still draws everything, and that's Alcides, who works for my father family. He's a super talented artist, and he hand draws everything, and then they scan it in. Like he'll draw a band like huge with all the details, and they'll scan it in, and they'll get all the details in vector. I think it's just designing and creativity in general with cigar making. Doesn't matter what platform you're at either. I'm a designer. I'm not a brand. I'm a brand owner and a designer. I'm not a factory owner. I'm lucky that I get to go into a factory and use it as my playground. But it doesn't matter where you are in that realm of whether you're a brand owner or a factory owner. There's so much creativity out there right now that it's actually a blessing to be a cigar smoker right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The market is so just really, really saturated with really great blends. And yeah, there are still, the market being what it is, there are still plenty of what I'll classify as mediocre cigars on the market, but there are just some incredible blends coming from Nicaragua, from Dominican Republic, from Honduras, from Costa Rica and Cuba, and there's some great cigars coming from everywhere. And
Alabama.
Alabama.
Well, I think really it was kind of that when people started taking risks on and challenging themselves on trying to put different tobaccos together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really changed the scope. I mean, there was always, you know, if you look at the old man Reyes from Puros Indios, Rolando Reyes Sr., he was one of those masters. You know, he liked to play, and he would take tobacco from all different countries and different regions and mix it together. He could also roll the cigar too, which was kind of nice, because I consider that talent, you know, like far and above than just a guy who owns a factory.
And then when did you see the shift in fermenting the different leaves come into play?
Well, I think, you know, honestly, that's a pretty simple process. I mean, it's all done pretty much the same way. There's different, you know, opinions on how much fermentation there is. I always like to say that, you know, fermentation is one process, and all the different steps along the way are part of that process. You know, people say triple fermentation, 5 times fermentation. You're like, okay, it's all part of that one process to ferment tobacco clean. At the end of the day, if you don't have clean tobacco, you don't have good tobacco to work with.
Yeah.
The first thing first is to make sure that tobacco is clean. And there's the great debate of whether or not the cigar goes through some type of other process when it hits the box.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, I get that. That's always the big Cuban debate. You know, oh, you have to let it sit for a few years because it goes through another fermentation in the box. I don't technically believe that, but
yeah, I'm with you. I don't believe it.
Everybody's got their own opinion, and I probably disagree with that one.
Well, I would say this is my opinion, and I'm no expert by any stretch, but just based on what I've seen in factories in Nicaragua and factories in Dominican Republic. I haven't been to any factories in Cuba, but I know a lot of people who have, and have basically from what I understand, the tobaccos that we're used to, that those of us who smoke a lot of Nicaraguan cigars or a lot of Dominican cigars, those tobaccos are fermented to, in most cases, if they're really doing it right, they're fermented to a sweet spot for that particular batch. They're fermented to a sweet spot, whether it's temperature, whether it's color, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And in Cuba, simply because of the way the arrangements are with the government and the factories, they don't necessarily give them the time necessary before they say, just no, we're done waiting. Take those leaves and roll them into cigars. That's it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and I know they rush stuff to the table. And that's where the game is of like, oh, you got to let it sit for multiple years so it can go through another process in the box to become whole. I don't really agree with it. It has, before you roll it into the cigar, the tobacco has to be ready. Simple. Yeah. I mean, that's my opinion. That's what I've been taught. The tobacco has to be ready. If the tobacco is not ready, will it change once it's rolled into the cigar? Yeah, a little bit, but not enough to really make it worth anybody's time to sit on for 5-6 years. Like, I have to wait 5 years to smoke the cigar because I have to let the tobacco change some more. No, the tobacco's got to be right, because when you smoke a cigar fresh off the bench, you have to know that it's clean and perfect, and then let the age from there dictate where it's going to go. Yeah.
And there's that's one of the things about the tobacco is that the fermentation process that I've seen in those pilones, you know, you can't mimic that same once the leaves are rolled into a cigar and put in the box and shipped to me, I can't mimic that same process. I can't get the temperature to a certain point and get the color to a certain point and dissipate the ammonia, I mean, a little bit over time, sure, but you can't mimic that process in the box.
No, yeah, you can't. It's funny because I got some cigars out of a basement in Union City, New Jersey. Wow, I want to say 25 years ago. And they were still full of ammonia. I actually took baking soda and put it inside of a Tupperware container next to the cigars and let the baking soda suck out the last bit of ammonia. Okay. Just so they would be a little bit cleaner. But you can't mimic what a pilon does. I mean, again, when you talked about it earlier, when tobacco is fermented to a sweet spot, like color, we know that on a certain cigar we need an exact color. I mean, it's not always exact. There's a small range that we try to get in, and we know that we can't push that tobacco and that priming more, otherwise it's going to get darker, because we need to have it at that point.
Yeah. And then there's also a point, if I remember, that there's a point where you can go a little too far, where fermentation then becomes rotting.
Yeah.
And if you go past that, what kind of a detriment to the leaf are you going to have once it crosses over a certain temperature and that leaf starts to rot? I mean, it basically becomes unusable, right?
Yeah, you gotta chop it up and sell it as picadora to a cigarette company that's going to top it with something.
Okay.
Or a cigar company that's going to top it with a flavoring, because honestly, you've killed it. When it comes to a premium cigar, you're going to end up tasting it. It almost smells like trash.
Yeah.
You know that, and I'll give you a great visual. You know that smell when you walk down an alley and there's a dumpster in the alley?
I know that smell well.
And I know that alley.
That's what like overworked and pushed tobacco tends to smell like when it's burning.
Yeah.
It's kind of nasty, and it's something you want to stay away from. And then at that point you just say, no, just chop it up, get rid of it.
Yeah.
A good question from one of our viewers is asking, would you mind touching on the background of the Favorito size tattoo? Says he's really digging those right now.
The Favorito, the background to all the Favoritos, because I have another one called Triunfador.
Mm-hmm.
Favorito. When I would go to Europe, I would always buy Quintero Favoritos, which are a 4.5 by 50.
Yeah.
And they're kind of a picadora style cigar. And sometimes you get good ones and sometimes you get bad ones. But when you're walking around the streets, it's actually kind of one of those cigars you don't care. You're smoking at that point and you're just kind of walking and relaxing. And if the cigar goes out, who cares? If it falls out of your mouth, okay, get another one, because they're relatively inexpensive. I realized that the last few batches of Favoritos that I was buying from Quintero were not really great. And I still have a full box in Los Angeles that was pretty horrible, that I bought actually in the Dominican Republic on the way back from a meeting that I had down there. Excited because I was like, wow, I can get them here. I think they were $2 a cigar or something like that. And they ended up turning out to be trash. I mean, they were no good. So I figured, you know what? If I can convince Jaime to make this for me and have it come in at a great price point so the consumers can enjoy it at a reasonable price, I want to sell a bunch of them. And so far, they've been a hit. The Tattoo Favorito is based on the Tattoo blend, of course, which is a little stronger than the Triunfador version, but they all fit in that wheelhouse of that flavor profile that I was looking for.
Yeah. So kind of getting into the creativity piece again, when you're sitting down to blend, a particular cigar, or maybe even a new iteration of an existing cigar, maybe a new size or something like that. When when you're working on a song or working on a design, sometimes there can just be it's just about where you need it to be, and there's one piece that's missing, whether it's a lyric or whether it's a chord progression to finish out the bridge or whatever it is. There's just that one little piece that's missing. When you're at that spot blending a cigar, what do you do when you hit that spot where you just know there's something? Do you just have to walk away and just clear your mind for a little bit, or do you just keep pressing into it? What do you do when you're in that spot?
It's just like writer's block, because no matter what you try, it will keep on resulting in the same thing. And then one day you kind of go back into the factory or go back to that song, and you just happen to make a mistake, and that's actually the happy mistake. Sometimes it's like no matter what you do, you can't get it to the right point. That's why cigars never get produced.
Yeah.
That's why certain cigars never make the shelf, because you're like, I'm not convinced on it, and how am I supposed to put this out if I'm not convinced on it?
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you get really lucky. I mean, like I've sat down, knowing, the best thing that I have in my portfolio has been the Brown Label Miami, and the guidance that I've had from Pepin and Jaime, and knowing that blend really so well that I can actually dissect it up and down and find happy moments in different spots. And sometimes that might be something as simple as changing the priming of the wrapper. That makes a huge difference. And sometimes it's that perfect moment that you take even the simplest of blends. I mean, when you talk about Brown Label Miami, it's one of the simplest blends. It's classic Cuban blending. I mean, Seco Viso Ligero, right? I mean, there's nothing hard about it. It's really about how those tobaccos are positioned inside, and the binders that we use on all the cigars, because I've said this before, but we double bind everything. So sometimes it's a happy mistake that it's just as simple like as changing the prime and the wrapper that makes a cigar so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So will it be sometimes let's say you get a crop from a certain plot, that's maybe the Viso is not, maybe the Viso has a completely different texture than it did last year, or it does on the plot right next to it, or something like that. Is that what you mean, where you have to adjust and things like that, or kind of break that down a little more?
No. When adjusting blends to make sure that the blends are consistent, that's something that we rely on the factory, and Jaime and Pepin know the lots better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And they know how each tobacco on those lots are shifting along with their employees. So they know that if, lot A on Estrella is a little too, acidic, they'll move to lot B, and it will be the same tobacco, just toned down a little bit. It's really about playing to make sure that the flavor profile is constantly somewhere within a range, because if you expect a cigar to be exactly the same every time, you're in a world of hurt, because it's never going to be.
Yeah.
You have to have a comfort zone that you have to stick within. If you try to just be right on the line every time, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So it's small tweaking to make sure that the blends are spot on. To every time I go to Nicaragua, I always taste different cigars from my different lines to see if anything's changed. And if I even get a phone call or a text message or an email or a message on Facebook that someone thought that, X cigar tasted different than he's used to, I go straight back to the factory to find out like what's going on. Let me find something from that batch. That's why we date stamp everything. I want to make sure I know, okay, if it was date stamped in October of 2019, most likely the product was from earlier in the year, and I can go back in the humidor, and they usually have leftover cigars from that batch that I can go and say, okay, there was something wrong with X tobacco in it. Could be a Viso or Ligero or whatever. The hard part is making sure to catch all those problems. It's
Mhm.
impossible.
No doubt. Continuing with the creativity piece of it, one of the things that I think goes unappreciated are or is the artwork and um, the art that goes into both bands and boxes.
Yeah.
How fun is that for you, and how much do you get involved, especially with your background in that?
No, I actually, when I started the company, my bands were pretty basic. You know, the art on the box was pretty simple. You know, the logo wasn't really tough to put together. Actually, I had someone help me with that early on, and then I started doing new brands. Like Kawai One was my second brand, and I needed to come up with some artwork, and I knew exactly the image that I wanted, but I didn't know how to put it together on a computer. And there was a kid in Los Angeles that helped me put it together. But then when I needed some banners for a show, he disappeared. So I actually had to teach myself how to use Illustrator.
Okay.
And ever since I, got that, that education of understanding how to use, vectoring and Illustrator artwork, I was able to start doing pretty much most of my stuff. Over the years, I've passed a little bit of the work on to Casper's brother Kyle, that worked in our office with Saints and Sinners also, because he's super talented with Photoshop and Illustrator also. And my buddy Seth. So if I don't have the time, I usually go to these guys and say, okay, this is what I want. Sometimes I'll scribble something on a piece of paper and say, this is what I need.
Yeah.
But their worst nightmare is when I would sit behind them and go, okay, move that to the left. Because I'm that picky when it comes to it. So like, I'll design stuff. I was just working on something this week. My favorite thing is that I finally brought my computer from Los Angeles to Miami, and I'm able to sit down and just kind of zone and work on artwork. And like I did something, I'm like, it looks great. And I looked at it again and I started playing with it some more. I'm like, what am I doing? It looks fine the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I get involved a lot, and I do a lot of it myself.
Yeah.
I'll usually send the band makers completed artwork, and then they'll end up doing what they need to do to put it into their printing system.
Cool.
But every once in a while I get stuck on something. I'm like, I think it needs, maybe some gold foil somewhere. And like a guy like Albert Montserrat, who owns Cigar Rings, he's an encyclopedia when it comes to it. And he's like, yeah, just here and here. And I'm like, can you show me it with that little gold foil where you're saying, and it pops. And I'm like, sometimes you need a professional that's been looking at these things for all of his life.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if it was up to me, all my bands would be pretty simple.
Yeah. Bill's got a kind of a cool question here to help us understand the blending process. Is the Corona Gorda the size you use when you're blending, or how do you go about that?
No, I use Corona Gorda a lot, but a lot of times, depending on the line, I'll usually go with Robustos. But a lot of times, to be perfectly honest, I'll go into the factory knowing exactly I want to do a Petite Corona. So I just make a Petite Corona. I don't bother making a Corona Gorda first or a Robusto first to see if the blend works there when I should be making it in the Corona Gorda or in the Petite Corona. It's better for me to actually just make the cigar the exact size that I want to smoke it in and see what needs to be changed. Because at the end of the day, most cigars have different blends within lines. I mean, you have a base blend, but you end up tweaking all the sizes to make sure that they perform correctly in those sizes.
Yeah, because I would think based on ring gauge, based on length, there's going to be issues with, there would be issues with combustion, maybe if it's a smaller ring gauge cigar or something like that.
Yeah. Depending on the tobacco, obviously. I mean, I used to do a little trick where I did it a long time ago. I kind of got away from it, but I would throw like maybe a piece of broadleaf in a blend in the filler just to add a touch of sweetness. But I started noticing that sometimes broadleaf can get a little dirty on the palate. And when it's burning as the filler, it changes it a lot. And I kind of steered away from it because it became the smoke became too heavy. I don't know if I can explain that correctly, but it was a trick that was fun to give you a cool flavor at some point, but I started not liking the aroma from it.
Okay. Was it sort of like a bitter earthiness kind of thing that just became too heavy on the?
Yeah, you end up having that kind of like dirty ashtray feel.
Sure.
You know.
Yep.
And I was trying to. It was cool on the palate, but it wasn't cool on what was sticking to you after you smoked it.
Yeah. Oh, Casey says when you were talking about the band design. The La Mission was a prime example. He says.
Well, yeah. So that was I gave both Seth and my buddy Seth, who was working on the clothing company with me, and Kyle, who does S&S. I gave them both a small drawing, and I said, I want to see both of your guys' impression of this. And they both gave me two different things, and I took both pieces of art and put them together and came up with the final thing myself. I think I finished that band at like 4 a.m. And then that's when I sent it to Albert Montserrat, and I said, Albert, what would you do more to make it pop?
Yeah.
And he said gold foil, and he added some touches of gold foil in some places. It was magic.
Yeah.
That's the most elaborate band that we've done. And that's the one he loves a lot because he had a piece in it too. So
good call, Casey.
Yeah. So talking about, and I keep going to this just because it's something that's important to me, but I know there are tie-ins, with music and, just the creativity process, and when you look at, we've talked about this a little before, when you look at the raw materials and the process that go into making a great song, it's not rocket science. There's a certain set of chord progressions. There's a certain, you've got parameters that you pretty much have to stay within once you decide what kind of song you want it to be. And then with cigars, you've got a certain set of raw materials, a certain, set of processes that, yeah, there are differences around, from country to country with process and things like that. But for the most part, the raw materials and the process is the same. And what is it where the sweet spot is, where the magic happens in my mind, where you've got something truly special. You can have a song that truly at its roots, if you break it apart into its bare pieces, it's the same as probably 50 or 60 or maybe 100 other songs.
Oh yeah.
But it's still special. So there's something about it that makes it special. And the same is true with cigar blends. You can have a cigar blend that at its roots, at its core, is probably similar to a lot of other blends that are in the humidor at your cigar shop, but there's something about it that makes it special. Where in your mind does that come in, the little things that set it apart?
Well, I'll give you a quote from George Padron in the documentary, Hand Rolled. You take shitty tobacco, you make shitty cigars. You take good tobacco, you make good cigars. It is really that simple.
Yeah.
I think the magic, and that even Rocky touched on it in the documentary too. The magic is how each person does their own twist to it. I mean, they're basic, very simple, classic blending, but maybe, like the Garcias have always double bound cigars. They use 2 binders on everything, and the way they put their binders on might be different than some other factory, and that might be the magic of why their cigars taste a certain way.
Yeah.
There's nothing more than water temperature and time in what the Garcias do. And I believe that if you let tobacco speak for itself, instead of topping it with something to kind of give it a flavor,
yeah,
it actually, that's what makes it magical. I think, a song, same thing, is like most songs are the same chord progression, but as soon as you put in a bum chord, it's going to sound like crap.
Yeah.
The cigars are very similar to music, I think, in the way that when you sit down to write a song and you sit down to blend a new cigar, it's storytelling.
Yeah.
It's what you want to do to tell your story.
Yeah.
That's why, that's another reason why I have so many different cigars, is because there's always a story that I want to write.
Yeah. And I have personal experience with this, with songwriting, with trying to get too fancy just for the sake of being outside the box. And it ends up at the end of the day, you give that song to somebody and you say, listen to this and tell me what you think. And they come back and they say, do you really want to hear what I have to say? Yeah. And I say, yeah, give it to me straight. And they say, it sucks. They say it's too weird. It's too complex. It just doesn't sound like a song.
I'll tell you,
that's just because I was getting too fancy with it. So, and I've tasted cigars that I know for a fact, that I didn't talk to the person about it, but I've tasted cigars that after the fact, I said to myself, this person was just trying to be too
trying too hard.
They were trying too hard. Yeah. So what's an example of that you can think of?
No, I mean, for me, again, I think the simplest blends make the best cigars. When you start trying too hard to like mix it up because you want to be the cool kid on the block, you tend to convolute your message, and next thing you know, you end up ruining the true expression of what a cigar should be, which is simple.
Yeah.
A cigar is a pretty simple product, and when you try to get too crazy, it kind of muddies the waters. Your flavor profile changes, and I don't know, I'd rather just go up and down the plant instead of trying to get all crazy and trying to do, blends with 18 different tobaccos or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes away from what a cigar is supposed to be, which is a pretty simple thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's just like hot sauce. I belong to a hot sauce of the month club, and I can tell you the hot sauces that have 4 or less ingredients are the best.
There you go.
The ones that are, 7, 8, 10, 12 ingredients. Nope.
I think the necessity of why people have over the years have started to, grab tobaccos from multiple different countries is because they might be short on the core product that they really need. Again, with music, you have the core chords that you always need in a song, and that's 90% of the hit songs out there are all based on the same chord progression, right?
Right.
When you start getting crazy with tobacco, it usually becomes a thing where you're running out of something. You need to substitute to try to create something new. And that's where I guess a lot of limited editions come from, because they literally have a short supply of a certain tobacco, but you still need good, solid core product to make a good, solid cigar.
Yeah. And I did some nerding out today, just music wise, just to talk about one particular, the chord progression pretty much of basically since the 1930s it's a 12-bar blues chord progression. There's probably 8 million songs that have been written and recorded with that chord progression, since we've all been alive. And you look at, classic examples of that chord progression,
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say is Vanilla Ice. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's totally 12-bar blues right there. But there's like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Pride and Joy, Sweet Home Chicago, Robert Johnson, Red House by Jimi Hendrix, The Thrill Is Gone, B.B. King, even Elvis Presley. Everybody got into that act of doing 12-bar blues. I don't think there's a major music act out there that hasn't done that chord progression. But then you've got examples of it where at its core, it's the same chord progression, but a lot of people would say that's nothing like. So you look at a song like Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For by U2.
Yeah.
That's a 12-bar blues song, but 99% of people would never compare that to Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan.
No, yeah.
Or Boogie Shoes by KC and the Sunshine Band. That's a 12-bar blues song.
Huh.
So
you're humming Boogie Shoes in your head, aren't you?
I'm
doing the same thing.
pretty much as soon as I said that. And then well, Stuck in the Middle with You by Steelers Wheel. That's another great blues song that people don't know is a blues song. But when it comes to those, because it has to be done carefully and it has to be done with great care. But there are sometimes some examples of bands that have been able to sort of make their own market outside of the box.
Yeah.
But it's rare, and they kind of sit within their own style. You know, like Steely Dan is an example that I always think of. Rush is an example. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That where they're not really in that same, that same sort of pattern that a lot of pop music has been for the last 50 years, but yet they make it work, and it's really outstanding. And I know this is really kind of an out there question, but can you think of any examples in the cigar world where there is maybe a blender or a company or some experiences you've had with cigars that have been outside of that sort of normal box, but have really been a good product in the end?
I would say actually the old man Reyes, Puros Indios, when he was doing his crazy blends. I mean, if you think about like a guy like Frankie Neza, Frank had like 3 blends,
right,
and multiple colors of wrappers. But a guy like the old man Reyes from Puros Indios, he had so many different tobaccos that he loved playing with. The difference with him is that he knew how to play with them, and he also knew how to sit down and roll every cigar that he was playing with. When he finally nailed the Puros Indios blend and the Aliados blend in the early days, not so much now, obviously he's gone and the cigars are completely different. There was something special about them. They caught fire for like a short period in the mid 90s, and then they kind of faded off in the distance, but there was something unique about what he was doing, but he actually had the talent to put it together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of people over the years that like to sit in a room and call themselves master blenders, and they want to put, 7, 8 tobaccos together just to be the cool kid in the room.
Right.
But they kind of, I think they probably missed the mark.
Yeah.
A good example, who's someone who was doing very simple blending, but relied on what product he had to use, was a guy like Tony Berhani. I mean, I knew Tony.
Bahia?
I knew Tony in his early days with Bahia, and he would come to us with 3 different blends and like smoke these, and they'd be like 23A, 23B, and 23C, and like 2 weeks later he'd come back and he'd come out with 53A, 53B, and 53C, and we're like, what happened to 23? No, he goes, no, I didn't like it. I changed it to this, and I realized that he probably just didn't have enough tobacco to make production.
Okay.
So he was constantly trying to experiment just to make product based on what he had in core material.
Yeah.
I think the luxury that the bigger companies have, and I'll put the Garcias in there because of the amount of tobacco they grow now, is that they have a lot of good, solid core material. And you can always count on the core more than you can count on, the crazy one-off, I have 5,000 leaves of this that I'm going to make a limited edition of. That's one thing. The limited editions are a completely different item. And that's what I consider a limited run or a limited edition, is when you absolutely just don't have enough of something and you want to do a project with it.
Yeah.
What I do with, the Monsters, they're limited runs because I choose to make them limited runs. I could make that cigar every day of the week, but I prefer to make it special for this time of the year.
Yeah. Oh, and I got to put this up there just because I love this guy so much. Joe Guzman's got to say talk about how we share a birthday. So,
oh yeah, December 7th.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. I had to throw that in there for you.
Joe, it was also Cynthia Fuente and Carlito Fuente's mother's birthday.
There you go.
Just that's a piece of trivia for you.
It's
also my dad's birthday too.
Oh, there you go. I want to briefly touch on the wine business, and basically just to find out, because I never really did know this, if the time that you've spent working on wines and things like that, was there ever a time, even if it was just briefly, where you thought to yourself that you were going to shift your full-time focus into wine, or was that always just a labor of love that you wanted to do as a personal special project?
Yeah, that was a wonderful vanity project.
Yeah.
It made me feel good about myself. Like I had fun doing it. I got to go to Bordeaux and sit in a room and play mad scientist.
Yeah.
And, mix beakers full of different grape varietals and different vineyards. I mean, it made me fulfilled because it was something I always wanted to do. It never became a focus as far as a wine business goes. It never became a business, actually. The core focus is making sure that I don't think I do anything better than cigars. I mean, not that I'm saying that I do cigars better than everybody else. I'm saying that personally, I've never done anything better in my life than doing what I'm doing now. So it's hard for me to say, I'm going to try to do something else now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, it's the fear of failure and messing up something and putting out something that people are disappointed with.
So I did a bit of a deep dive in your Instagram, and now you've done quite a bit of travel over the years, and you had some outstanding pictures of a lot of great architecture. Does that go beyond just what you see as a great building, or do you really have an affinity for great architecture?
No, I enjoy it. I don't know.
Is it
I'm
something
just a
you
kid with a cell phone camera? What's that?
Is it something you seek out?
No. It just, I see something I like and I take a picture of it. It's as simple as that.
Love it.
I love, honestly, that's what my cell phone's for, is to, sit there and go, oh, that looks really cool. Let me take a picture of it, just so I can have that memory later on. But I know some friends that are really into architecture, and I love beautiful architecture. I mean, the house that we have here in Miami is kind of like old Havana, which I love. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of beautiful pieces of architecture out there that everybody should see if they have the chance to. The pictures I took were probably hack pictures that just of some silly building I thought was kind of interesting. So
you got an eye. I liked it.
Can you take us back to, was there, when you started getting into cigars, even part-time, can you remember the one singular moment where you said, this is going to be my full-time life's pursuit? Or did it happen gradually?
No. So I was in a relationship in California, and I was kind of getting out of the music industry, and I needed something different. And I found cigars while I was playing music. And then one day I was like, man, I'm really into this culture. I would love to own a cigar store or work in a cigar store. And when I found out how much it cost to open up a cigar store, I never did. I ended up becoming an employee for a small cigar store in Los Angeles that was pretty well known. It's actually no longer there. It was called Gus's Smoke Shop. And it was one of those places that all the celebrities would go there, and I'd be in there buying a cigar, and next thing you know, I'd turn over my shoulder and Alec Baldwin would walk in the door, or, whoever. And I think really when it started for me is when I started working in that shop in 1993. I found like a happy place, and I found like this whole nother rabbit hole that I had to go down into. So that's when I started going in the humidor and smelling every cigar and trying to figure out which country was which, and understanding, you know, like, okay, the tobaccos are different. They're all going to taste different. They're all going to be, you know, it's all about personal pleasure, and it's all about personal, you know, choice. And it was really about finding those few cigars in that humidor that I was like in love with. So going down that rabbit hole and that first job is really when I said, I kind of want to do this full time. I didn't understand what I was getting into when I took the job, because I just had that dream of like, I want to own my own store. And when I actually got in the mix of it and understood tobaccos and how they were different from country to country, that's when I truly fell in love with the industry.
Yeah. And there's so much. I mean, we could talk for days about just all the different creative nuances that go into it. That's one of the things I love so much about it. So I wanted to talk a little. No, go
I will
ahead.
say this real quick. I will say that the one thing that really hooked me were the people that I met.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people that I met in the industry, or even the people that walked in the store that were just in love with cigars as much as I was. Some of those people I'm still friends with. It's a different world. It's the common bond. You know, it's that one thing that brings you together, and I think it's a special thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really,
and we talk about that so much. The culture of people together smoking cigars. There really is. It sounds cliche because we say it so much, but there really is nothing else like it. And it's one of the things that we love so much about it is we get the chance to meet so many different kinds of people and have so many different kinds of conversations. And whether it's at a shop or whether it's just friends coming over to my house and smoking, or whether it's, you know, talking with guys like you on this show, it's one of the industries, one of those cultures that just has a very different vibe to it. It's a very different mix, you know.
I have a kind of a cool story. I was at an event in Northern California, Mission Pipe, San Jose, and a guy walked in the store. I recognize faces a little bit more than I recognize names. A lot of times I see people and I might forget their name, but I saw this guy come in and we just struck up a conversation. He started telling me about his hobbies and what he does. And he goes, "Oh, you're the brand owner." And he goes, you have like a top cigar that you ever smoked?" And I go, that's tough. I can remember a few cigars back in the old days where that really just put me into a different zone of my appreciation for cigars. But, you know, what I make now, they're all my babies, so I can't really choose one. And he started getting on this conversation about it. He goes, "I got 5 like best moments in my life with cigars." And he started talking about like he was, you know, on vacation in Africa and he was smoking, you know, a Cohiba, and then he was, you know, smoking this other cigar here. And then he got into a story where he's like, there was one cigar that was sold to me, and the guy even told me, like, don't judge the book by its cover. And it was like this ugly cigar that just had a ton of flavor. And I remember that cigar so much. He goes, "I bought it in Sherman Oaks, California." And I looked at him, I go, "Dude, that was me. I sold you that cigar." Because, and I go, "It was a Henry Clay." And he goes, "Yeah." I go,
"Yeah, Henry,
I sold you that cigar because that was my line. Like, trust me, you're going to love this cigar. It's got a ton of flavor. It's inexpensive. You know, back then, I think they're $1. Literally, the Henry Clay Bravas were literally $1. And,
back in the early 90s. Yeah.
And that was with, you know, tax in California. So that everywhere else, they're like 85 cents or 90 cents. And he looked at me and goes, "Holy shit. You did sell me that cigar." And literally his hair on his arms rose up and he got emotional. He's like, this is like 20 years had passed.
Yeah.
or more than that. It was like, shit, I think 23 years had passed. And he was just like, that's one of my top 5 cigars. And it was the ugliest thing, but it tasted so good. And that's the one cigar I remember.
That's a great story.
I love that story. Our friend, viewer Matt Trenda wants to know what you're smoking right now.
I'm actually smoking a Noea. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
It's a what we would consider like a Rosado Claro. It was the precursor to the reason why I started the Escassos.
Okay.
These were made in the factory in Miami by mistake. They used the wrong shade of wrapper, and classic brown label Noeas have a certain color to them. And Yanni had told me, like, hey, listen, we have a small problem. We have 600 cigars that were rolled with the wrong wrapper. So that's literally 1 week's worth of production from the roller who rolls Noeas. And I said, well, obviously, if they're not dark enough, I can't put them in a Noea box and call them Noeas, because everybody who smokes Noeas, they're going to be like, what happened to the wrapper? And I lit up one of the cigars. I go, these cigars are phenomenal. And I literally put 23 boxes away. So it was 600, what is that? 675 cigars or something like that. 625 cigars. I can't even do my math right now. Anyways, it was one of those situations where I had enough cigars to put 23 boxes aside, and I put the letter L on the front so I would know that they're light wrappers. So they went into boxes a couple of years ago with no bands, and we marked every box on the front with a Sharpie that says L, so I know that those are like my retirement cigar.
Oh, there you go.
So I slowly burn through them, maybe sometimes too quick, because I really enjoy them. But that's the reason why I started the Escasso series in Miami, is to take that expression of the same cigar I make every day and put a Claro wrapper on it. It gives such a different dynamic to the cigar.
Yeah.
And that's really, we're going back to that one simple change that can change the world of a cigar.
Yeah. One of the things I've asked a lot of people about lately, because I've seen so much movement in the last, I don't know exactly, maybe 3-4 years, over in the European market, from Nicaraguan cigar brands, Dominican cigar brands. What do you see happening as far as the market over there for non-Cuban cigars, and what are you what are you learning from that, and what are you doing to sort of gain a piece of that market over there?
Well, I mean, the last few years, it started to shift pretty drastically. I mean, at one point it was like 8% market share for non-Cuban cigars, and now I think that's probably getting into the 30s. Even like stores in London are actually shifting their whole humidors to 50-50 of old world and new world cigars, which is impressive, especially for places like London, which are staunch hardcore Cuban smokers.
Yeah.
I like finding what the market appreciates. So like with Italy, I went and did a small tour in Italy and found that they really enjoyed Petit Cazadores, which are strong cigars. And they also loved Fausto. And I realized because they smoke Toscanos, which are pretty heavy cigars.
Yeah.
So that's why I went straight after what the market kind of wanted. And I did a Fausto with San Andreas to give it that, sweetness pop, but that strength and spice, and they love it over there. But with like different countries, it's really about trying to find that product that fits within that country, because every country is different. I mean, all the smokers, like people in France, they're more Cuban core, and you want to kind of go after that style. So I find that my brown labels end up selling better in those countries compared to, like in Italy, Fausto is a big seller for me, and that's why I did the 2 limited editions for Italy. But it's really about finding what the country wants. Spain is very traditional. They want, they really like Petite Robustos and Petite Coronas, but they find that Petite Robustos and Robustos are their biggest sellers. But they also want wrapper colors that are reminiscent to Cuban wrapper colors. And they also want bands that look very similar to, old world bands.
Okay.
Luckily, I have a lot of those, so I'm able to play with things like Triunfador, for example.
Yeah.
So when they smoked just recently, when we were in Dortmund for our trade show, our Spanish distributor sat down and smoked one of those Triunfador Favoritos. And they sell tattoos already, but they looked at the Triunfador Favorito and they said, this is exactly what our clients want.
Okay.
And then we told them the price point, and then we told them, the style, and then they lit it up. They're like, this is exactly what our clients need.
Nice. So it's not just the from a flavor and blend profile as far as leaning toward those classic, Habanos kind of that sweet spot, but it's also the look of on the shelf.
Yeah, I mean, their customers are very, set in their ways. They've been smoking Cuban cigars all their life, and they look for a certain style. So they even told me that, the tattoo imagery is really for that guy who wants something a little bit more powerful. Even though the tattoo is not a powerful cigar, it just looks a little bit more hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It looks more heavy metal than soft rock.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a couple viewers drooling in search of some of these unicorns you're throwing out there, brother.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of in search of comments out there. So, hey, you guys, you know your channels. Find your channels. You'll find them out there somewhere. Gary, do you want to do our new segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's
man.
shift gears, and we're going to start a new segment tonight where we're gonna rank some things here. So, Garrett, get us kicked off.
Yeah, so we've been doing this thing the last couple weeks where we throw out a list of things that are personal to our guest, and with Pete being a bassist and a heavy metal guy, I decided to get a list of 10 iconic bassists from the rock genre. And we'll see where Pete is going to rank these bassists. So, Pete, I'm going to give you 10, and you give me your top 5.
Okay.
So we've got Geddy Lee, Flea, Cliff Burton, Steve Harris, Lemmy, Geezer Butler, David Ellefson, Les Claypool, Tom Araya, and Tim Comerford.
Tim Comerford's from who again?
Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not going to lie. I only recognized half of those names, but I feel good that I recognized half of them. I can.
Well, there's a lot of people on that you left off the list.
No doubt. I mean, I had to kind of spread it out a little bit, and maybe after you give your top 5 of this list.
I mean, think of John Entwistle, John Paul Jones. I mean, there's some great bass players. I was a Duff McKagan fan, so
Duff.
Being a rock bassist, I was always a very simple bassist, so I was also a Nicky Sixx fan because he was very simple the way he played. But for sheer talent, oh man. And you left off Jaco Pastorius too. Man.
Well, I know.
he can cross over genres, so putting him directly, I don't know. It's tough to pigeonhole him in one genre.
Wow. Well, Claypool's in my list, obviously, just because he's amazing. Flea for his sheer talent, and I loved his humility. Well, I don't know about now, but when he was younger, he was just one of those bass players that just wanted to get up and kill everything on stage. Geezer Butler, honestly, Geezer, Ozzy, I'd probably put him to the side. He was always great, but I don't know. Geddy Lee, sheer talent. Rush was never my favorite band, but you can't not love them because of their unique character.
Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, the two guys are
amazing.
Legend.
Who else did you say? Did you say Dave Ellefson?
Yeah. Dave Ellefson and
from
Megadeth. Yeah.
Wow, that's one I haven't heard in a while. I'd probably leave him off the list also because I'd go to Cliff Burton.
And then a follow-up question to that: Cliff Burton over Jason Newsted?
Oh man, I became more of a Metallica fan when Newsted was in the band.
Yeah.
But because I was exposed to Metallica early on. My bandmates were big Metallica fans. Back in Maine, and I learned to love Metallica. But by that time, Cliff was gone and Newsted was in the band. I'm not so much of a Trujillo fan, even though he's a great bass player.
Right.
I just don't think he fits with Metallica.
I agree.
Yeah.
I go back. I gotta hear a few more names that you said.
I'm gonna run down again: Geddy Lee, Flea, Cliff Burton, Steve Harris from Iron Maiden.
Steve Harris, amazing. The only guy that can do triplets like that. I don't know how his fingers move so fast.
Yep, he is.
Steve Harris. Again, I wasn't a big Iron Maiden fan, but I dreamt to be as good as him.
Lemmy from Motorhead.
Yeah, of course, Lemmy. Lemmy's in my top 5, just because he was simple, but he was super talented.
Yep.
And I was very fortunate to meet a few of these people. So like
Tom Araya.
Yeah, great. But not in my list.
Not on your list. All right. And then who would you put at the top of your list?
Out of what you said?
No, out of any. What are some names that aren't listed here that
Well, I already named him Jocko.
Yeah,
John Paul Jones.
John Entwistle, Duff McKagan, and Nikki Sixx. If I had to pick 5, but you know what, man? Like even Geezer, like there were certain bass lines that he did that were just so classic
and iconic.
Yeah, you can hear them in your head, and you're like, okay. That's a tough one, man.
No, I get it.
So let me ask you this, Pete. When you played, did you play with a pick or without or both?
Mostly with a pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I started
style.
I started playing without, and then I learned that I found that the pick was just more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Plus, I slung my bass really low, so I'd always do a lot of hammer downs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, down picking, which was like sometimes a lot tougher than just going up and down.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Even Grohl is actually a really good bassist.
Yeah, I mean, Duff McKagan never started as a bass player. He was a guitar player first.
Right.
And the best bass players are always guitar players first, because they know a lot more to do with their fingers than bass players. Like a traditional bass player doesn't know how to work his fingers as good. But I don't know. I think, man, Lemmy. I think I'd probably put Lemmy at one of the top of my list just because he's Lemmy.
Yeah,
right. I love Lemmy.
Just because of his sheer talent. I mean, he wasn't just the coolest, badass person you could ever run into. I mean, and he was super nice to everybody he ran into. So. Yeah, I saw him a couple times at the Rainbow, and he was always very, very cool. So
yeah,
when you meet someone, they say don't ever meet your heroes. And when you meet a guy like Lemmy, you're like, well, I don't know what they're talking about because he was freaking awesome. You know, I used to play in a band with a guy named John 5. I don't know if you know who he is.
No.
Well, his real name is John Lowry. He was the guitar player for Marilyn Manson, and also now he's Rob Zombie's guitar player. And
cool.
he played with everybody, and he was one of these amazing, super talented guitar players. I played in a small band briefly with him, and the drummer was Randy Castillo from Ozzy.
Mm-hmm.
And John eventually became, for lack of better words, a dick. No, I mean, he was super cool when I knew him, and we were hanging out, writing music and playing and recording stuff. But years later, when I finally ran into him, I went up to say hi to him and just to see how life's been. And he was like, "Who are you?" And I said, "Pete, we used to play in a band together." He goes, "What band was that?" I go, "Red Square Black." He goes, "Oh yeah, that was a long time ago." I go, "Have a good night." And I literally walked away, and my buddy Seth was with me. He goes, "What happened?" I go, "He's kind of a douche now." He believes his own hype, you know?
Oh, that's good. A question from Jason Fitzgerald. Is the 10th year of Saints and Sinners the final year?
No, it's a special year. I'm going to try to do it longer, but 10 will be a bang for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, the club gets harder and harder every year. It's a tough group to wrangle in sometimes. There's a lot of great people in the club. Sometimes they get off the trail of being great.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, if I didn't have that club, it's a big part of my life. That I think some of the members don't understand how much part of my life it is.
Yeah. Let's move into the useless fact of the week. And this one is about, I started looking up monster movies and trying to find some obscure little factoid about monster movies. And I found one that I thought was pretty great. So the mask worn by the actor in the Halloween movie, worn by Michael Myers. It was a cheap latex mask that was bought at a dime store by one of the production assistants. And it was
Captain Kirk.
It was Captain Kirk. Yeah, I see you. You said you weren't going to know that, but I had a feeling you knew that factor.
Yeah. I think most people know that one.
So that and that was new to me. I didn't know that one. I was blown away by the fact that so the whole time you're watching this horrifying character on screen, it's actually just Captain Kirk.
William Shatner.
William Shatner.
And Shatner never got a credit or any residual payments. I'm sure he's still pissed about that.
I became friends with a guy that he hit me up on Instagram, and he kept on like sending me private messages, and I would always respond like, "Oh, cool, like he's smoking this." I'm like, "Oh, rad, thanks," you know. And he responded one time like a man of many words. I'm like, "Who the hell is this?" And then he goes, "Hey, if you're ever in town, let's meet up at the Grand Havana Room." I'm like, "Wait, now who the heck is this?" Because obviously you know me from somewhere.
Yeah.
We didn't know each other, but he was a fan of the product. And he had done some favors for some people at the Grand Havana Room. So he happened to be going there all the time also. So we met up, and I sat down for dinner with him, and he slid a Michael Myers, one of the dress boxes across the table, and says, "I brought a gift for you." I go, "You're not going to give me my own cigars." And he goes, "Well, look at the box." And it was signed by, I forgot the guy's name now. It's one of the guys that played Michael Myers. God, what was his name? Kane or Hunter or one of the guys. I can't remember. I get the guy that played Michael Myers and the guy that played Jason mixed up all the time. And then it was signed by this chick. And I was like, "Who's the girl?" He goes, "That's my wife. She's been in 5 of the Halloween movies. She's like a scream queen." I go, "Get out." So that's the only time I've ever been given my own box of cigars back, but it's signed by those 2 people. It's kind of cool.
Wow.
That's awesome.
No, that's fantastic. Let's go to Numero de los Muertos.
All right, guys. The numbers this week are 80,000 people in the U.S. get seriously ill from this, and 100 people die from this
Every year?
every year.
80,000 people get sick and 100 die.
100 die. Lyme disease.
Ooh, that's a
that's a great guess.
That is a great
Holy
guess.
crap, that's a great guess.
'Cause how many people die from Lyme disease?
Right.
Probably
But I would think more people would get sick from it.
yeah,
right.
it's probably not that many.
That's a good guess, but nope.
Diarrhea. I only say that because I watched the Netflix documentary about Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, I watched that too.
And there's a whole thing about diarrhea killing people.
Yeah, one of the episodes. It's a 3-part series, and one of the episodes is about him working with companies trying to eradicate that because it's apparently it's a huge killer in underdeveloped countries.
Good guesses, guys. Not West Nile or
is
Salmonella.
it a pathogen?
It is not a pathogen.
It's not. So it's not.
It's not a bug.
Okay.
Vaping.
Ooh. No, I think that number is actually higher already.
The death toll on vaping.
Yeah.
I thought it was low. Actually, I thought it was like under 100, but it's too new of a stat though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it?
So.
Yeah. Here's some more hints.
I'll give you a little hint. This is to think of decoration.
Decoration. Mm-hmm. Like streamers and shit?
Like people decorating Christmas trees? Decoration.
Oh, wait. No, because 80,000 get sick from it.
Oh.
80,000 get sick from decorating?
Oh.
Decorating what?
Eating candy canes? I'm throwing it all on the wall right now.
80,000 get sick from carving pumpkins? They're allergic to pumpkins?
That's almost.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's almost a good guess. Well, thanks for that, Dick.
Love you.
Eating pumpkin seeds? No.
Matt Trenda.
Oh, here, I'm going to put this up on screen.
Matt.
Really?
With the win.
80,000 people get sick from getting a tattoo?
Yep. And 100 people die.
Wow.
Well, that's why I haven't gotten a tattoo in a long time. Well guessed. Man, that's a
great guess. Holy
What the heck do they get?
So there
get
are
like
some people that
hepatitis?
have a big reaction from either contaminated ink, which I guess is a thing, or contaminated needle. And staph is a big part of the statistic, or just infection that happens, and guys are guys and never get it checked out, and dead.
It's been more than 10 years since my last tattoo, so
yeah, I'm about the same.
Yeah, me too.
I'm probably gearing up for another one next year, but we'll see. That's a great stat, Garrett. I like that one a lot.
I was like, what can I do for this week's? And I started looking at tattoo death statistics, and it's like, that's perfect.
Tattoo death statistics. That's
we should have guessed that one early.
Only here on How About That Cigar. So Pete, a little lightning round. If you could give one piece of advice to new cigar consumers, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
And to old cigar consumers, don't be that guy that doesn't help that guy that needs help.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen to that. Shoot. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you could give one piece of advice to cigar retailers, specifically brick and mortar cigar retailers, what would it be?
No, this could get me in trouble.
That's what we ask.
Clean your store.
Get in trouble. Burn your store, you said?
No, clean your store.
Oh, clean your store.
Hey, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll second that. Yeah, absolutely.
Make every customer that walks through your door feel like they're special.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's too much of this where, and we've all been to shops like this where you walk in the door and you're lucky if you even get a hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that 100%. Pete, if you could give one piece of advice to what's now called the PCA, formerly known as the IPCPR, if you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh man,
here's where it gets political.
This is a tough one.
Yeah, I
nobody's gonna see this, Pete. Doesn't matter. Just
oh yeah,
let it go, brother.
Let the manufacturers have a little bit more say in the decision making process.
Yeah,
that's my one thing.
Yeah, and I'm thinking they're heading in that direction because Scott Pierce, who's the director of the organization, was on Cigar Dojo's show a couple weeks ago, Smoke Night Live, and Eric asked him some very heated questions, and Scott was very, very humble and forthcoming and saying, yeah, we've got some areas where we need to improve. And that was actually one of the areas that he brought up.
Scott's one of the good guys.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a great, I mean, he doesn't make the decisions, obviously. The retailers that are part of the board make all the decisions, but Scott's a great leader for that organization. I mean, I think he's done nothing but good. Yeah.
And I think I was very impressed with, the way that, because obviously there were some bumps in the road with, some of the changes they tried to bring about. And he owned it completely and said, yeah, we maybe didn't put our, do the prep work we should have in the beginning, but we learned from that, and now we're gonna move forward and do it the right way. We'll and make sure it's done properly when we launch this new event in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think they were a little too quick. I think they needed to plan it for 2 years, not hey, we're doing it next year. It's just too much. Just too much involved to try to plan in 1 year, anyways.
Yeah, and they figured that out, and so I know a lot of people who are excited about it, and I'm one of them. I'm excited about it. I still have some questions, but I'm glad that they're giving themselves more time to get it done right.
I'm excited about it. I mean, I want. I was a consumer too.
Yeah,
and most of the guys that are on the floor now that some own factories and some are brand owners, they were consumers also.
Yeah.
Our dream was to go to the trade show.
Yeah.
I think it's a way for, even all the media that goes, a lot of those guys just wanted to be on the floor. I think it's a necessary part of our industry is to have consumer involvement. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The more we can get consumers involved, then we have an opportunity to educate those consumers. And I've talked about this a lot, especially the casual consumers who only smoke, 50 cigars a year or less, those casual cigar consumers that have a small desktop humidor and they don't smoke very often. But, the cigar nerds like me and like you and like a lot of other guys who, and the people even watching shows like this, they spend a lot of time getting themselves educated, but the casual cigar consumers, they need to know more about what these products are all about and more about the people who go into making them and how they can be a better advocate for even this casual hobby that they participate in, because that'll just be better for the industry as a whole if they're better educated about the products that they enjoy.
Yeah, you said exactly what I was thinking. Education is the biggest portion of our industry that needs to be needed. It needs to be heard. People need to learn about what we do and understand that we're not, a cigarette industry or we're not a vape industry. That cigars are a different culture and a different craft, and for me, it's always nice to tell people what goes into a cigar.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to tell them the little secrets that of exactly how the cigars are put together, but I want them to understand what they're putting in their mouth. You know, I'll tell them the base materials and the wrapper and everything, but I'm not going to sit there and dissect it for them.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
And with movies like Hand Rolled, and you were a big part of that film, what is the feedback that you're still seeing and getting from that initiative, and what do you hope to see come out of that in the future?
I think the response so far has been great. People that were never really into cigars that much that have watched it have, you know, approached the cigar community even differently since they've watched it. I think the ultimate goal would be to hopefully do more episodes. I mean, I know Jesse and Steve want to do more. It ends up being about, you know, finances at the end of the day, trying to put together like more episodes of different countries and different profiles. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of money to put something good together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll close out with notable smokables for the week. I lit up a cigar that I haven't had one from this brand in, I'll be honest, I don't think I've smoked a cigar from this brand in 3 years at least. And it was another one of those that, in kind of reorganizing the drawers in my humidor after the move, I found this cigar, forgetting that I had it, and it was the Recluse Amadeus Connecticut.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a brand that I don't really smoke very often. They're not carried at any shops up in this area, but I had some that I bought from an online retailer years ago and found one and smoked it. And I have to be honest, it aged, you know, it's you know, after 3 or 4 years in my humidor, it tasted just fine. It still got, you know, some good flavor, some good depth, you know, good kind of a creamy, smooth texture to it. So, and the retrohale was killer on this cigar. It was really, really very nice. What was one of yours?
Well, last week you piqued my interest, and I had to go and grab a Opus X.
Oh yeah, the production run from this year.
Yep, and I mean it's an Opus X.
Yeah, yeah, it was a good year this year.
It was a good year
for Opus, and so, you know, hats off to them. It's
well, I'm sure I'll smoke one tomorrow then.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, Drew Newman hit me up via email and asked me to bring a box of cigars to the meeting because he said he pretty much had everybody else's cigars at their offices in Tampa. And so I'm bringing something special up with me from the Miami factory, but I know I'm going to dive into everybody else's boxes also.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be a fun experience when you're there with all those people, and you know, I'm sure everybody brings a nice box to share from, and I'm sure for the most part they bring stuff that's like you're doing there. They bring stuff that's outside of the norm. They don't bring the regular retail stuff.
Well, I mean, we would have a lot of our meetings at George's office, the Padron office, and he would always, you know, bring out boxes of 26. So it's always a nice treat.
Absolutely.
It's always a nice treat to sit down with the guy who makes them. I mean, I get that treat every day when I sit down with Pepin or Jaime. So,
yeah. Another one that I grabbed that was older, just because I'm finding so many of these old treats, was the Crown Heads Mason Dixon North edition from 2015.
That was a Garcia cigar, right?
Yeah, it was a Garcia cigar, and it did not lose any of its punch. I mean, it had spiciness and earthiness and sweetness. It was still great after 5 years now. So definitely still good.
Well, it's interesting. My second cigar was also a Crown Heads, the Las Calaveras.
From this year?
No, it was last year's.
Oh, the Green Band?
The Green Band.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Good cigar.
Great cigar. How about you, Pete?
The only thing that I've smoked recently that's been outside of my portfolio or the family's portfolio, I smoked a Cohiba Petit Lancero that was not notable.
Okay.
Actually, severely disappointing. Sad to say, I had high hopes for it because it was a really old one, but it just didn't have anything left to it. I smoked a regional edition of the Petit Robusto that La Gloria Cubana did for Spain.
Yeah, I've heard those are very good. What was your experience?
Mine was okay, and I told the person who gave it to me that I could sense that there was some younger tobaccos in it.
Yeah.
And then it got into the debate about, well, they need to sit in the box longer. And I just kind of left it at that.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing about that cigar is that they made 500,000 of one size.
Wow.
That's like a brand for most people.
That I'm very surprised by that. I mean, that's a regional edition. They made 500,000. That's
50,000 boxes of 10.
wow.
Jeez.
Well, that explains why I've seen so many of them then, because you always think regionals, they're going to die off after a while, but I keep seeing pictures of them.
Yeah, and the retailer that gave it to us, he had already sold 3,000 boxes himself.
Oh my God. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But the difference is in Spain, the retailers make about, I think, 9%.
Oh my.
That's their margin.
Wow, that's healthy.
Yeah, no. A lot of those countries over there, they work on very slim margins.
Yeah. Wow. My last one, just that I had on my list for the week that was notable was the My Father La Dueña, the little Petit Robusto.
Nice.
And it was another one from a drawer that I've God only knows how long it's been in my humidor. It's probably been a long time, but it's one of those blends that I've enjoyed since the first time I smoked it many years ago, and one that I'll continue to grab whenever I get the chance.
Well, we actually, Jaime, Yanni, and I were up in Connecticut a few months back talking with a new farmer for Connecticut broadleaf, and we walked into a cigar store. We went to like 3 or 4 different cigar stores, but we walked into one cigar store to have a cigar after lunch, and they happened to have some really old La Dueñas sitting there, and it was just kind of nice to smoke an old La Dueña that's pretty much almost half broadleaf.
Yeah.
In the area which was growing all that broadleaf. So
that's really cool. Did you have
No, that was really that was it for notables.
Okay. All right. So guys, just some programming notes for upcoming shows. I want to let you know that next week on the 22nd, we are going to welcome Eric Gatormson, who is Master Sensei from Cigar Dojo. He will be on the show with us. The following week, we're going to broadcast live from Sodi's Cigar and Pipe here in Stillwater, Minnesota. Great little shop. So we're going to have a crowd of some locals and talk to the shop owners and talk to them about their cigar history. Then the week after that, we're in November already. Wow. Rainier Lorenzo from HVC Cigars is going to be on the show. It's a small brand that I've been excited about for the last couple of years and doing some good work. And then the following week on November 12th, we're going to talk to Mr. Sean Williams from Cohiba Cigars.
Sean's a good dude.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's been, we kind of became fast friends at IPCPR a few years ago, sitting down having dinner, and he's got great stories, and he's just a flat out great guy.
Yeah.
So Pete, give us kind of a little closing look ahead. Obviously the Monster Series is dropping right now, but any little tidbits you can give people to close out?
We have a new surrogate coming out called Surrogate AKC. It's a project that Dan wanted to put together after his dog passed away. So his dog was named Kenji, and it's a Kenji cigar, so AKC. That's a pretty big beast. It's a 555 with a little Fuma head to it, San Andres wrapper, but solid flavors, really solid flavors. the SNS members actually got a sneak peek of it in their club kit this year, which is kind of cool. And I think that's going to be November. And then we did the Lat 46 in a Selection Special before with the darker wrapper. We're doing another one with the lighter wrapper to make it part of the regular line.
Okay.
I think more and more I'm leaning back towards lighter wrappers to take away that heaviness and just kind of go for that cream and elegance. So, and then on top of that, I might have I know I have my crazy United States Escassos that I've been working on in the single coffins. Those might drop for the first time at Ambassador Cigars in Phoenix, Arizona, or Scottsdale, Arizona, at the beginning of November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cool. Fantastic. Pete, honestly, we can't thank you enough for spending some time with us tonight. We know you've got an early morning, so
I still got to go pack. So
yeah. So to all our viewers and everybody, thanks so much for joining us. Pete, thanks for giving us some of your time this evening.
Thank you.
And for all of you who are watching, if you have any more questions, you can continue to leave those in the comments. If you have questions for us, you can leave them on the website at howaboutthatcigar.com. You can send us an email directly from there. If you're listening on the audio podcast, thanks again, and continue to like, share, and subscribe, and we will continue to have more good stuff for you to watch and listen to. And until we see you guys next time, burn cigars,
not bridges.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.